Imagine a city locked down, starving, with no way out. This was Samaria, squeezed tight by the Aramean army. The situation was beyond desperate. People were paying outrageous prices for the most disgusting things just to have something, anything to eat. The city was a chorus of weeping, a place where hope had died. Streets that once bustled with life were now silent, haunted by the specter of famine. The king himself, in despair, walked the city walls, seeing only suffering and hearing only cries for help. It felt like the end, a slow, agonizing surrender to starvation, trapped within their own walls. But in the darkest hour, a voice of unshakable faith pierced the gloom. It was the prophet Elisha. While the king was tearing his clothes in anguish and the people were giving up, Elisha made an announcement that sounded absolutely insane. He declared, "Thus says the Lord, tomorrow, about this time, a measure of fine flour shall be sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria." Can you imagine? Food would be so cheap, so abundant that the famine would just end? Overnight, one of the king's officers standing right there scoffed. He said, "Look, if the Lord would make windows in heaven, could this thing be?" It was pure disbelief. It sounded like a cruel joke in the face of their suffering. Elisha's response was chilling and certain. "You will see it with your own eyes, but you will not eat of it." A prophecy within a prophecy. The stage was set for a miracle that no one could have predicted. Now let's turn our attention to the outcasts, the forgotten ones. Outside the city gate, in the no man's land between the city walls and the enemy camp, sat 4 men with leprosy. They were cut off from society, facing a certain lonely death. They had nothing to lose. As they sat there, wasting away, one of them had a moment of clarity. He said to the others, "Why are we sitting here until we die? If we say we will enter the city, the famine is in the city and we shall die there. And if we sit here, we die also. Now therefore, come, let us go over to the camp of the Syrians. If they keep us alive, we shall live, and if they kill us, we shall but die." It was a desperate gamble, a choice born from absolute hopelessness. Staying put meant certain death from starvation. Going into the city meant the same. The only unknown, the only sliver of a chance, was the enemy camp. They chose to walk towards the unknown, towards what they assumed was either a quick death or a final fleeting meal. So, as dusk began to settle, these 4 weak and frail men shuffled towards the massive, intimidating camp of the Aramean army. They expected to be met by guards, to be cut down instantly. They approached the edge of the camp, their hearts pounding, but there was silence, a strange, eerie silence. They crept closer, past the first line of tents. No one. They walked further in. The campfires were still smoldering, food was left cooking over the flames, and the tents were filled with supplies. But there were no soldiers, not a single one. It was as if the entire army had vanished into thin air. What the lepers didn't know was that the Lord had caused the Aramean army to hear a sound, the sound of a great army of horses and chariots. In a state of sheer panic, they assumed the Israelites had hired foreign kings to attack them. They fled for their lives in the twilight, leaving everything behind. Their horses, their donkeys, their tents, their food, their gold, their clothes, everything. The entire camp was deserted, a ghost town filled with treasure. The 4 lepers stood there in stunned disbelief at the heart of an abandoned enemy fortress. At first, it was pure instinct. These 4 starving men couldn't believe their luck. They went from tent to tent, eating their fill for the first time in what felt like an eternity. They drank, they feasted, and then they started gathering spoils. They grabbed silver, gold, and fine clothing, hiding it away outside the camp. They went from one tent to another, hoarding treasures they never dreamed of touching. For a moment, it was a personal victory, a private miracle. But then, as their bellies were full and their hands were heavy with riches, their conscience kicked in. They said to one another, "We are not doing right. This day is a day of good news and we remain silent. If we wait until morning light, some punishment will come upon us. Now therefore come, let us go and tell the king's household." They realized this discovery wasn't just for them, it was for the entire starving city. Their personal salvation was tied to the salvation of the very people who had cast them out. Their sense of duty overcame their greed. They had to share the news. So they turned back from the feast and ran towards the city gates they had left behind, ready to become the most unlikely messengers of hope Samaria had ever seen. The lepers reached the city gates and yelled out to the gatekeepers, telling them the incredible story. "We went to the Syrian camp and there was no one there, not a human voice, only horses tied and donkeys tied, and the tents as they were." The gatekeepers, stunned, called out and relayed the message inside, and the news quickly reached the king's palace. But the king's reaction wasn't joy, it was suspicion. He woke up in the middle of the night and said to his servants, "This is a trap. The Arameans know we are hungry, so they have gone out of the camp to hide themselves in the field, thinking when they come out of the city, we shall catch them alive and get into the city." It made sense in a way. The news was too good to be true. But one of his servants had a practical idea. "Let's take 5 of the remaining horses. If they live, they live. If they die, they'll be no worse off than the rest of us who are about to perish anyway. Let's send them to sea." The king agreed. It was a small risk for a potentially massive reward. He sent a couple of chariots with horses to follow the trail of the Aramean army. The scouts set out, and what they found confirmed the lepers' story beyond all doubt. The road leading away from the camp was littered with garments and weapons that the Arameans had thrown away in their haste to escape. The trail of their panicked flight was undeniable. The scouts returned and told the king everything they had seen. The last shred of doubt vanished. The news was true. The siege was over. The moment the confirmation came, the floodgates opened. The people of Samaria, who had been trapped and starving just hours before, poured out of the city. They ran to the deserted Aramean camp, not as soldiers, but as scavengers. They plundered the tents, taking all the food and supplies the camp had left behind. In an instant, the city went from abject poverty to unbelievable abundance. And just as Elisha had prophesied, a measure of fine flour was sold for a shekel, and 2 measures of barley for a shekel in the gate of Samaria. The miracle had happened exactly as he said it would. The famine was broken and the city was saved. And that officer who had doubted? The king put him in charge of the gate, and in the mad rush of the people, he was trampled and died, seeing the abundance with his own eyes but never getting to taste it, just as Elisha had foretold. This incredible story shows that even when things seem impossible, hope can arrive from the most unexpected places. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Timeless Tales of Faith for more amazing content. See you next time.